Well, welcome to the Seven Figure Builder Show. My name is Julie Baranek, founder of Seven Figure Builder, where we help high achieving CEOs work smarter, not harder, with gorgeous insights to scale to seven figures and beyond. And I'm here today with my friend Jessica Tomac. Hey, Jessica.
Hi, how are you?
I am thrilled to have you on today. I'm doing wonderfully. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. I am excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No, it'll be a lot of fun. So first and foremost, where in the world are you?
So I am in Michigan and grow over in the Grand Rapids area to be specific. So we've got the lake, which is beautiful, not too far from me, but I am not at it today.
Yeah, that is a very pretty area of the country for sure. So for people that haven't had the pleasure to meet you yet, can you tell us just a little bit about what you do with your business?
Sure. So I have spent my time helping women and business owners know how their money is working for them now and what they can expect from it in the future. So I really got started in this industry is I was in corporate America and really wanted to figure out how I could build wealth and change my trajectory and not have to always be hustling hard. And had 5 different financial advisors that I fired along the way for different reasons and thought, boy, women are being underserved and not supported in this area. I should just do it. So I got started into the industry and haven't looked back since.
Awesome. We'll just dive right in, but when do people need you? Like where in the journey do you factor in and when can you most help people?
Yeah, so at any stage, I would say that you can access a financial advisor for coaching. So sometimes you're not working with them as far as having accounts and doing things of that nature, but just having some direction. I often coach folks where I say, okay, go do these 2 things. And then once you have them done, come back and let me know, and I'll give you your next thing to do. Because maybe they're not in a position to be doing business, but they still need help. Instead of just throwing, darts at the dartboard, hoping something sticks, hoping they're doing the right thing, having that map to how to get there is so helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And so often when we have our own business, we're just, heads down, focused on what is the next thing, where am I headed, that direct vision, and not necessarily planning for long-term wealth or, those hidden tax bills or whatever the case may be. What would you tell somebody, who has their own business and is thinking that this might be something for them?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of things. It doesn't have to be difficult. I think that's the key piece. It doesn't have to take a lot more time. I think sometimes as busy women, we are like, oh, we don't have any more time. One more thing on our plate is just going to fall right off, right? So really finding an advisor who can help you. We do a system where we bring in the income and then we disperse it into the different areas. So whether that's pouring back into your business as investments in that type, whether it's investing outside of your business, whether it is doing your pay bills. So you can really have this comprehensive and someone who's monitoring it, because as well as I do, there's times you look at your bank account and you're like, oh, I shouldn't have that much cash in there. It's not doing anything. Right. But you just got busy with life and no one was monitoring it. So we take a really proactive approach. We set it up, we monitor it, then we call and say, hey, here's where we're at. This is what we said our next step was. And so we're proactively doing it, making sure each one of those steps are occurring along the way.
Yeah. And what's the best way to plan for long-term wealth, to take whatever's in your bank account and make it work for you?
Yeah, so I tell folks always have that emergency fund in your bank account, and what that dollar amount is different for every person. So if you're running your own business and you're the sole provider for your family, that might be 6 months to a year worth of your paying the bills. If you are beyond that and you have the cash, then really layering in some CDs for safety. And then after that, looking at tax efficient ways to be investing. Also, in your target of 6 to 7 figure people, you really want to be doing things that are tax efficient. As self-employed folks, you get hit hard on taxes. So there's a lot of things that you can be doing along the way to mitigate that tax burden. And so taking the opportunity to pay yourself versus the government, that's super important.
Yeah. And what are some of those things? Can you share? I know I've been digging virtually into those myself, but what are some things that you can share with the audience today?
Yeah, so some kind of top level, if you want access to them, are municipal bonds. Those grow tax-free. That income it generates is also tax-free. It can be state and locally, depending on where you purchase it from and where it's located. But also if we think about retirement and we think about that long-term plan, doing things into a 401k or a simple or a SEP, some type of business account that is a tax deduction to you is really important. There are also plans where the business can just have an expense and it's solely funding your retirement as a diversification strategy as well.
Awesome. And what are some things that people often forget about, like they don't really think about until it's too late?
I think there's a lot of things that sometimes because we're busy, we forget, right? Again, I'll go on the other end of the investment side of things and talk about that insurance. From an insurance standpoint, if you're a sole business owner or you have a business partner, if you have a business partner, having a key business policy in place so that if your partner dies, you know how you're going to pay back that portion of the business or do your buyout. So it's all covered with insurance. I often think about disability insurance. No one wants to believe it's going to happen to them, but accidents do happen. And unfortunately, I've had lots of folks in their 40s need to go on disability for a period of time. So having that disability insurance to make sure that you can still pay all your bills and not be stressed out, really key factors in making sure that you and your family is protected.
For sure. No, that's incredibly helpful and so often goes by the wayside until you need it. And then generally when you need it, you should have already had it. So it's nice to have that, person to be able to say, hey, did you think about these things and be able to put them in place for you?
Yeah, I think the other piece is as you build wealth, what you had for insurance isn't what it needs to be now. So sometimes you're like, yes, I did that, but that was 5 years ago and your situation is dramatically different. So really assessing that, as well as I find a lot of times folks don't revisit their umbrella insurance. And that's really important from a liability standpoint. If someone were to sue you, if you don't have enough coverage to cover your assets, they could take a lot of what you've worked so hard to build.
Yeah. And to that point, how often do you think people should reassess their situation? Is it a time basis, an income basis? Are there milestones?
Yeah, great question. So I assess them every year for my clients, and then we determine if we actually need to go out and get quotes or revisit things every 2 to 3 years, typically.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Totally. Switching gears a little bit, but from the time management perspective, like what do you see with people? Where do they struggle? How, what can you help them with the most with that?
Yeah, oftentimes it is, I don't have time, right? They're so focused on their business, they have families, whatever is taking their time, they don't have time for this. And I find that their investments and their, financial planning is the kind of like the trust stuff also. I'm going to get to it later. The problem is later is not good, right? You need to get to it now. So really partnering with someone that can make it efficient, that isn't going to take a lot of your time, to be able to track it for you and make sure that you're hitting those milestones. People love it when I call them and be like, hey, we just finished step 2, or hey, we're on step 4 now. And they didn't actually have to do anything, but they are making progress and they understand what the steps are, but they're not having to watch it on a daily business because they're so in the trenches with their own business and personal life. They don't have capacity for this.
Yeah. Yeah. And to that point, how have you seen with your own business or with your clients that systems and automations have saved time in your business? Like, do you utilize them on a day-to-day basis?
Yeah, so we absolutely, and I think there's huge success stories that we have of folks that have done this and how well it really does work. For example, there was a single mom, 3 kids, she a sole provider for her family, obviously, and runs her own business, stressed out to the max, just trying to juggle everything and wasn't saving anything for retirement because she just was like, I don't even know where to start. I don't have capacity. So we said, okay, let's direct deposit here and let us help you. She now not only is fully funding a SEP for herself, she's on target for retirement, she's planning for her kids' education, and all of those things I'm confident would not have been accomplished without our help, helping navigate those dollars. She wanted to, she just didn't have capacity. So she loves our little check-ins. We tell her where we're at and she's like, great, and keeps going.
Yeah. And a lot of times you have to take that step back to see the bigger picture of, okay, where am I headed? What am I trying to accomplish? And it's so hard to when you're in the grind and like doing a million things at once, like you mentioned, that having that other person, with their expertise can really just shine that light of, this is what you need to do. This is, what is going to get you to whatever that end goal is.
Yeah, absolutely. And just having someone else that is their grind, right? Because then it really is this partnership and they feel empowered with their finances. You're like, hey, if you want to spend X, great, go do that. And here's what we're doing with the other stuff. We have those conversations. It's a quick phone call. Okay, we have this. Where do you want to go? What do you think? And yep, great. And off it goes. And it really makes a ton of progress.
Yeah, for sure. So in, seeing people's goals and how they set up their own goals for themselves and all that you've accomplished in your career, how do you define success? What does that look like to you?
I think it is financial freedom, right? It is the ability to know that you can breathe, that it's okay to spend money on things that bring you joy, and it's not going to bankrupt you later, or that's not going to be, oh, that was the worst. I should have never bought that new car, right? Because there wasn't a plan for it. You just did it. When you have financial security and you've been able to put those things into the plan, it doesn't feel bad, right? To go take that trip that you want to do or whatever it is, you know that financially, great, I planned for that and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah. And I think it's so important to live life along the way. So,
Yeah.
So often we're saving, waiting for that ultimate goal, whatever that is. And if we are in the grind every single day and not truly enjoying life and making those memories, so often that someday doesn't come, and it's so important to just soak it in as you go. And it's all part of the journey.
Yeah. And I think there's rewards, right? Like rewarding yourself. I think sometimes as females, we're always like, oh, we got to get to this next tier. And then you make it there and you don't celebrate. You just move the bar. I'm so guilty of that myself. I'm like, oh, we're going to do this. And then I'm like, well, we got there, but now it's this, right? And you're just don't take a moment to be content and be happy in that moment, celebrate your success, and then go on. So it is important to, doesn't give you a do-over. Right? There are far too many people that die unexpectedly and they don't get that time. I had a client, she was in her early 60s, and her husband for the last 10 years, we've been working together. Family is super important to them. And I just said, we've got these things in place. Go spend time with your family every single month. You go see, and their family was out of state. And I said, you take a long weekend, you take a week, whatever it is, but every month you're going to go do something with family to build memories, because we don't have forever. And I'm so happy that we did that, because they had the financial means to do this. And she died unexpectedly last month. And so when I attended her funeral, it was amazing to hear her family talk about how she made them a priority and visited them. And they had all these memories of her, right? They would love more. But had we not been having that, they would have just been squirreling away to save for their future that she unfortunately didn't get to enjoy.
Yeah, that's an incredible story. So for people that are hearing that and thinking, God, I wish I could do that, what are some tips, some, ideas for people to really take that time, like you said, the long weekends, whatever that is for them? What would you recommend for them?
Yeah, so unfortunately, what it requires is a budget, right? And a little bit of a financial plan. A lot of times people hear the word budget and they think broke or bread and water. That is not at all what it means. It literally is you telling your money where to go versus wondering where it went. And they did a loose budget. It doesn't mean you have to track every receipt or count every penny, but you do have to kind of know what things look like. If you're spending, $500 a month on Starbucks and you're not vacationing, well, think about those priorities a little bit. And sometimes people have no idea what they're spending in certain areas. I had a client come in, they both made really good money, but we couldn't figure out where their money was going. They had no idea what was happening, why they couldn't save. And I said, well, bring me your credit card statements, bring me your bank statements for the last 6 months, and I'm going to literally create a spreadsheet. So I did that. We found that they were spending 40% more on dining out and their Starbucks coffee stuff than they were on their housing expenses.
Oh my God. Wow.
That should never be, right? So once they could see how much they were really spending, they were like, oh, well, we can fix that without a lot of effort, right? Because they just had no idea how out of control that one area was. And now they're doing a great job of hitting their goals. But sometimes you just need somebody else when you're too busy to figure it out. They neither one of them like numbers. So it's like, give it to us, we'll do it. And when you can lay it out in a pretty little picture, they're like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. No, that's huge. And having the right insights into data is priceless because it gives you that objective information, takes the emotion out of it, and helps you make data-driven decisions, which is huge, right? Because then you can actually do something and see the results out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not personal, right? It's just, here's the data. Here's what it says you spent it on. This is where the money went, right? So
yeah, exactly. So what is the most life-changing goal for you this coming year? What do you have up ahead?
Oh, so my son is headed to college in the fall. So this will be my first kiddo to leave the nest. So the dynamics of the house will be different. And really, I want to focus on making sure that I take a moment. I originally said I'm going to come down 3 times during the year. He was like, I don't know about 3 times, but we'll see. But just to be able to go and spend a weekend down there or pop down for an event or a game or something. It's kind of on my big transition as we have life happening around us.
Definitely. No, that is definitely a transition. I know we've been experiencing it ourselves, so it's fun to navigate that.
Yeah, fun and scary, right? It's like when they first got their driver's license, you're like, don't get in an accident. Now you're like, please run and go get me these groceries.
Here's the list. Go get it.
Exactly. Oh, you ran out of milk? Go get it. You know the way to the grocery.
Exactly. That's amazing. So where can people find you online? How can listeners support you in your work?
Yeah, so they can go to Edward Jones and type in Edward Jones and Jessica Tomac, and I will pop up there. I have a Facebook page. If you just type in Jessica Tomac, it'll pop up, as well as in LinkedIn.
Fabulous. And if you had the attention of the whole world for 5 minutes, what would you tell them?
It is never too late to save. And when should you start is today. You have to be saving something.
I love that. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jessica, for being on today. This was a lot of fun.
Well, thank you, Julie, for having me. I appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And if you found value in this episode, please do share it. That's how people find us. And you can find me at sevenfigurebuilder.com. And I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.